CTV News at 5 with Hudson Mack.
The Crown is seeking a stiff penalty in Victoria to send a message about animal cruelty. 2 men found guilty of mistreating a horse were in court today for the start of their sentencing hearing. David Whiffen and Clayton Cunningham were at the Victoria Law Courts this afternoon after being convicted in October of hanging an elderly horse from a backhoe after starving it. The Crown is recommending jail time for Whiffen, 6 to 9 months probation, restitution to the Elk Lake Veterinary Clinic, and that he be prohibited from owning animals for 10 years. The other man in the case, Cunningham, represented himself in court, but the Crown is asking him to find a lawyer before it deals with sentence for him. The men claim that they were just following orders from the vet.
I got the doctor to euthanize it. But Claude took the horse because he believed it was his horse and he was trying to save it.
So why didn't you call the vet back?
I did. He wouldn't come back. He wanted $500 to kill the horse and he wanted the money in advance. And Bailey said I didn't have enough time.
This last charge is totally bogus. It's the biggest bogus charge of all 3 of them. And it's simply not true. That horse had its special food twice a day, every day.
The sentencing hearing will continue on the 30th of this month. Next Friday, the case has been before the courts for 2.5 years now. A Vancouver Island family marks another somber anniversary this weekend. It'll be 21 years tomorrow since Michael Donahues disappeared. The 4-year-old Michael was last seen on the playground at Blanchard Elementary School on March 24th, 1991. His parents were close by. Michael would turn 24 years old this year. His disappearance is one of the largest missing persons investigations in Canadian history. His mother, Crystal Donahues, who is now president of Child Find BC, says the tips are still coming in after all these years, and someone, somewhere, knows what happened to her son.
Tips continue to come in, even with the offer of a reward that's out there. We still haven't got the tip that we need that will bring Michael home. It's hard to believe that it's 21 years. It just feels like yesterday to me still.
The Donahues family will hold a church service tomorrow in honor of Michael, as well as the 5-kilometer run and walk, which is scheduled for April 8th. It's the annual event, Keep the Hope Alive. You can register for that and support the campaign at Frontrunner stores, the Esquimalt Rec Centre, and the Donaire shop on Esquimalt Road. Anyone who might still have information about Michael's disappearance is urged to contact their nearest police or Vic PD. The Royal Canadian Navy will provide information about its live fire exercises and its sonar use in waters around southern Vancouver Island and Puget Sound as part of the ongoing investigation into the death of a killer whale. It's suspected the whale that washed up February 11th at Long Beach, Washington, was killed by an explosion in the water. The orca, named L-112, also known as Sook, was part of the endangered southern resident pod of killer whales. A necropsy has been performed and shows the mammal died of severe hemorrhaging, indicating major trauma. A Vancouver Island marine biologist says it's possible the 3-year-old orca was killed by an explosion underwater.
Whatever it was that killed that whale had rather a lot of force to it in order to for the whale to succumb to the damage that was observed during the necropsy. It depends on the intensity of the sonar that was being used at the time. Everybody is familiar with sound, as long as you have your hearing, of course. And if you're watching fireworks, it doesn't bother you. But if somebody sets one off, close to you that you're not expecting, it can make you jump. And if you're too close, it can cause damage. It's the same idea with sonar under the water with the whales.
The U.S. and Canadian navies are now being questioned about their live fire exercises and their sonar use around the island and in Puget Sound in early February. HMCS Ottawa was doing sonar training in the Juan de Fuca Strait at the time near Constance Bank. The Navy also says Ottawa detonated 2 small underwater charges as part of anti-submarine warfare exercises. The Department of National Defence says, however, that all precautions were taken in regard to orca habitat.
This is critical habitat. There's been a lot of effort to try and determine which areas are important for southern resident killer whales. It's equally as important that the military has areas to conduct the training and the exercises that they need to do. But I think what has to be done is we need to figure out where the balance is, and if it's possible that these exercises can be done away from critical habitat, or that we have trained people on board ships who are trained to look for marine mammals, who understand southern residents, who know the area, to perhaps work with the military. I think we need to really look at what the protocols are and see how they can be improved.
Marine biologists say what's important now is to find the other whales in the pod with L-112 and to see if any of them have been injured. U.S. and Canadian scientists are still examining tissue samples taken from Sook the whale. Well, the Green Party is taking a stand against oil tanker traffic in British Columbia, hoping to keep history from repeating itself. Green Party leader Elizabeth May is urging British Columbians to protect the West Coast by banning oil tankers from the province. It'll be 23 years tomorrow that the tanker Exxon Valdez ruptured and spilled 40 million litres of crude oil in Alaska. The spill spread over a wide area in Prince William Sound and beyond, killing birds, marine life, and damaging many ecosystems. May says it's very difficult to clean up our remote coastlines, and oil can take years to disappear entirely.
The Exxon Valdez spill and the disaster it caused is still not repaired. The Prince William Sound and the Gulf of Alaska is still, 23 years later, suffering the damage. And the threat to our fishermen, the threat to our tourist industry, the threat to our way of life, the threat to our First Nations and their subsistence economy and their foods. It's simply an unacceptable risk for no benefit for British Columbians.
The Green Party says the proposed Northern Gateway pipeline poses a threat to BC's west coast, and if the project goes ahead, more than 5,000 barrels of crude from the Alberta oil sands will travel daily across the Rockies to a new oil tanker port in Kitimat. The Green Party says that'll put rivers and streams and thousands of kilometres of BC and Vancouver Island coastline at risk. Cordova Bay Beach in Saanich has been cordoned off after 30,000 litres of sewage gushed out of a broken pipe, leaking into storm drains and flowing down onto the beach. A city worker found the leak on Wednesday morning near one of Saanich's main pumping stations at the corner of Halliburton and Lochside Drive. People in the neighbourhood are demanding a full environmental assessment. They say they should have been notified of the spill. Victoria City councillors have approved the plan for the future of the Johnson Street Bridge. They gave it rubber stamp approval last night in a 5-3 vote at the regular council meeting. A city governance committee voted by the same score last week to stay the course and to build the bridge according to the current design plan. The price of the bridge has jumped by nearly $16 million in a consultant's report, which brings the total cost of the new bridge to nearly $93 million. The mayor says the city needed to make a decision and do so last night in order to avoid missing crucial project deadlines. An empty Japanese fishing vessel has been found adrift off BC's west coast. Japanese officials confirmed that the boat did come from there and was swept across the Pacific after last year's tsunami. A Buffalo aircraft from 19 Wing Comox spotted the 45-meter fish boat west of Haida Gwaii Thursday. There are no bodies on board. The Coast Guard says there are no spills associated with the boat and there is no environmental threat to the area. Authorities are figuring out how to tow it into shore. Police have now shut down an area near Exeter Road and in Beach Drive in the Uplands. This after a group of children found what appears to be a homemade pipe bomb. One of the kids' mothers says her 13-year-old son and some of his cousins were on the beach this afternoon when they found something that looked out of place. They called police and since have been evacuated from the area for about 100 meters while this device is removed. Well, among the delegates is Victoria NDP Member of Parliament Denise Savoy. CTV News caught up with Savoy today, asking her who she's backing in the leadership race, and she offered her top 3 picks.
Whittled it down to Peggy Nash, that I've endorsed, Nathan Cullen, because he's been so transformational, and you know, I think he's brought ideas that have been controversial, but I think that new ideas and good ideas are great to renew the party, and Tom Mulcair.
Savoy also told us that whoever is voted in this weekend must have the island's best interests in mind. She says sustaining a green economy and more jobs is her priority, and of course we'll have the results for you tomorrow night on CTV News.